Between 2008 and 2023, Terry Keane has worked community stores in 25 Aboriginal communities across Australia. He knows how these communities work. He knows by the very behaviour and the purchases in these stores so much of daily life. These are his recollections and reflections on life in these communities. Those who want to help Aboriginal people in need should listen carefully to the stories from the front line. Nothing will change without addressing behaviour.
I ended up starting my own wholesaling company in groceries. I managed that for 14 years, sold that in 2007. Then it was, what am I going to do now? Which has been probably the story of my life all the way through. People say there's no jobs, there's plenty of jobs. An ad came up in the Brisbane Courier Mail and it said, management couple wanted for an interim period to manage a remote supermarket. And I thought, what's this? So I rang, it was the day after I sold, and I rang the number. It was in North Queensland and it happened to be a community store, which I've never seen before. And I had the job on the phone before I hung up. And it was a major store, which I won't name, but boy, what an experience. And that was my first one. I've actually done 25 of them now, all throughout Australia, through, Queensland, Gulf, WA, South Australia, the Territory. So it was a great thing to get into, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it, but I'm finished. After 25 of them, I think that's enough. Time to move on. They're not just groceries, those stores. They are groceries. They are white goods, computers, you name it, hardware, tyres, fishing gear. That particular one, because it was very close to the water. I had one lady come in, and she in those places, if people want to buy something you haven't got, and it's quite a bit of money, you have to get the money off them first before you order it from the biggest city. And I mean, it happens with tyres, it happens fridges, TVs, all that sort of thing. And this lady wanted a boat. And she said to me, could you get me a boat? I said, well, what sort of boat? Well, a boat with a motor. Well, get a photo of the type that you want, bring it in and show me, and I'll get you a price. So she did that. And a few days later, and she came in with it, and it was $3,500. So she pulled $3,500 out of her purse in 20s and 50s and gave it to me. And I don't like this, but what I'll do, I got an envelope and I put the $3,500 in there with the amount that's on it. We both signed it, what was there. And the next day she came in and said, I need a couple of hundred of that. Okay. So we both signed it, and you can know what's going to happen, don't you? Over the next 6 weeks or so, down to about $300, it was gone again. And I don't know what she spent it on. I'm very new in the communities, but it was gone. So that taught me that day, somebody wants something, they pay for it first before we get it. Number one is the flights, the scenery that I've probably seen Ayers Rock 20 times. I've been to it, I've walked around it. And now when I fly to maybe West Australia or the Territory, and I don't even look out the window to see it anymore. I know that sounds a bit blasé, but that many times I've seen it. So, but that was a highlight. I've been in some of the communities where we're near the water. I've been barra fishing with them. I've been crabbing with spears. I've had one instance where I went out with the guys and with you and I to go fishing. There's a limit on what we can get. With the Indigenous people, there is no limit because it's their way of life and that's their food. And we came home this day with a ute full of barra, and one of the guys, he dropped me at the store that we were working in, and he said, take what you want. I said, mate, one will do, thank you. It was this so long and cut into steaks. It lasted me probably 3 weeks, so I didn't want any more. But that was a real highlight. In one of the communities, I was asked to go. Would I like to go to a corroboree? Now, white man isn't allowed to corroboree, but I found this was probably after my 10th or 11th community job. My attitude has always been treat people like you want to be treated, and 8 times out of 10 it works. Not 9, but 8 times out of 10 it works. And this gentleman came to me and said, Terry, would you like to come, you and your missus, they call you boss and missus, not Terry by the way, so it's boss and missus. Boss, would you and your missus like to come to a corroboree tonight? Well, I jumped at that. How do I find you? Well, it'll be after dark, just head out of town, you'll see the fire in the bush. Okay. And after going through a couple of creeks and trees where the branches are coming in through the window, I made it, got there, and they said, yeah, boss, use this side, missus, you've got to go this side, because it's a can't think of the word, it's the way they do it, and you have to separate, and I can't go into. I know exactly what they did, but I can't go into that here because it's sacred, I suppose you'd say. And the boys become men at that particular thing. And then when it's over, they have to walk through the fire. Now these 14-year-old boys, I watched 4 of them walk across the burning logs to get to the other end, and when they get there they become men. And as long as I sit here I can tell you those feet weren't burnt. Bit hard to believe, but I saw that on 2 occasions. I had another shop where the house was where we stayed in, the community house was a little bit above the shop in height, I mean, and when I go to work in the morning I would, first time there's a tap outside the shop that was on, and the water was running down the hill. It was filling up the front of outside the shop. And there were a few old Aboriginal men sitting there, and I said, oh, the kids, what are they doing this for? He said, boss, it's not the kids, it's the donkeys. And I said, yeah, sure. Next morning, same thing. Turned the taps off, and they laughed at me, and rightly so. So the next morning I set the alarm for about 4 o'clock, and I got up and I walked outside and I watched. And as true as I sit here, those donkeys would come into town because there's no water outside town. They come into town and they learnt how to bend down and get the tap in their mouth and turn the water on to have a drink. Now, I've seen it. People will say no, I've seen it. There is another funny one. There was a gentleman, when I went for a walk in another town, I went walking around the town on a Sunday, a day off, just to look around. One gentleman there, he had 3 sets of wooden pallets in his front yard, and he had one vehicle. He had 3 vehicles, and he had 1 set of tyres, wheels. And I said to him, what's the deal? You got 3 vehicles? He said, yeah. He said, one's my town one, which means the city, another one's for around here, and the third one's for when he's hunting. And I said, why only 1 set of wheels? He said, because I have a set of wheels on all of them, those black fellas will steal them from me. That's his words. That was a black man. I had one instance where it was Christmas time, and I thought, I like doing things for the kids. The little kids are pretty good, and the little tykes at 4 or 5 years old, and I got I wrote off some lollies from the shop and chips and soft drinks, etc. And we had a trailer at the shop, and what I did was I got into the trailer, put a Santa Claus suit on with all the goodies, and one of the workers in the shop drove me around town, and I threw lollies for the kids. Well, they thought, funny to say, they thought it was Christmas and they loved it. So that was a bit of a highlight for me. It just goes on. You know, I've had so many. There's probably more, but they're just at the moment, they're the best ones that I can pull out of the hat, you know. There's jobs in every community. Not Some there's only a few, some there is a lot. The problem is, I have people come to me, have had people come to me every day looking for a job. I don't know whether the government says they have to go and ask for a job, but every time I've put somebody, not every time, most of the time I've put somebody on, they don't turn up, or they're there for a day or two and they've gone. I had one particular shop. I had a 20-year-old and a 36-year-old come to me on the same day, and they wanted to have a job. I needed people. In the towns, there are so many jobs available and they're not taken up. What happens is the islanders, and sometimes Chinese and Japanese I've had, come to the store and they'll work there because nobody will take the jobs. And it's pretty heavy work. I'm to the point now where I don't want to do that anymore, but over the last 17 years, there's a lot of heavy work has to be done. So this particular day, and once again, I'm not naming the shop, but I had a 20-year-old come. Yes, I said, I've got a grocery truck coming in here on Friday morning at 5 a.m. I have to be here and I want staff here. He said, 5 o'clock? Yeah, 5 o'clock. Okay. And the other guy who's 36, 38 or so, same thing. 5 o'clock? Yeah, I need your help. Okay. 5 o'clock they were there. At 7 o'clock the 20-year-old was gone. Never saw him again. And the 36-year-old lasted till 11 o'clock and he's gone. And too hard. And he came in and these are young fit fellas. They came in, he came in on the next Wednesday, and he said, I'll be back to work tomorrow. I said, no, sorry mate, I'll replace you. But I want the job. Well, you just left me. You just went away. So there are many jobs like that are given that they just will not. Some do. I've had a couple of great ones that saved me the whole time I was there. One town, the same particular town actually, there was this wasn't far off the Tanami track, which runs from Alice Springs to Stewart Highway. You turn off left onto the Tanami track and it goes up the back dirt road up to Halls Creek. 700 kilometres on a pretty rough dirt road. When I was out there, they were actually a lot of roadworks going on, and I haven't been there for a while now, but the word was that they're going to bitumen the Tanami. A lot of people don't want that to happen because it's a caravanners and hunters and what have you like that particular road to get off the main Stewart Highway. Anyway, they were doing it, and there was a sign put up in the front of the shop I was managing that I can't remember all the jobs, but there was truck drivers, there was people who wanted for the school, like the groundsman, there was people who wanted in the to clean in the hospital, not hospital, the medical place. There was 3 or 4 other things, but they wanted 30 truck drivers. Must have a licence, of course, a truck licence, and those jobs are paying $51 an hour. Do you reckon you know how many of all those jobs were asked about? Not one. And there's 50 jobs were available that particular week, or that particular, 2 or 3 weeks, and not one person turned up for it. My wife, in the same store, we needed somebody for the kitchen to help. There was a very big kitchen area where it was takeaway food, but also that store had a contract with the local school that every day our chef, cook, would cook up, I don't know how many, it might be 80, 90 meals a day, and at 10 o'clock they went over they were taken on a trolley over to the school. And we needed people to help there. Quite often, I jumped in the kitchen occasionally to butter the bread, or we all had to do it because it was a contract that had to be done. One lady, young mother, 23, 24, came in. Yes, I'll do it, she said, but I haven't got any shoes. Now, my wife, being a very placid sort of a person and wants to help everybody, she had a spare pair of running track shoes, sports shoes there. She said, I'll lend you these, mine, because they're the right size, and when you get your first week's pay, you pay me back. I'll give them back to me when you buy your own. She started and she went home at lunchtime. We never saw her again, or the shoes. So she did okay out of that day without working. I go on. There was a funny one. There was a different store. The local council was pretty good to try and get things, a small town, to try to get something going for the locals. And it was a long-term thing, but they decided they would plant grapes. Now, grapes don't just grow overnight, but over a few years they were grown, and the year before I got there, they were ready to be picked. And there was enough young men in town that it wasn't a giant thing, place of course, but there was enough men in town that could have worked it. So what they did, they said to the men, we need you at work at 8 o'clock that particular morning, or whatever it was. They came in, they picked grapes all day. They put them in the shed that had to be put into trucks and taken to town, wherever it was going. And the men put out their hand for their money, and they said, well, we can't do it yet, which was explained to them prior. Once we sell the grapes, then you'll get your money. Those men never came back to work. The grapes are still sitting there rotting. The basic card was a good thing. It helped when somebody comes to check out and they want to put cigarettes through, the card as a payment will reject. It won't. So people couldn't buy cigarettes, those sort of things, and alcohol have to be bought with cash. Now, but on many occasions I've seen not elderly, but mature people who, not kids or young men, but mature people who might have a few dollars, haven't spent all their money in their basic card, they've got a bit there. You'll get the young men who will come and say, you buy my grocery, I'll buy your groceries for you from mine, and you give me the cash. So the cash then goes to the young men, 2, 3, 4 of them, and they'll all put $10 of fuel in the car and go to town, and they'll buy the alcohol in town at, whatever, I don't know what the carton of beer is, but it comes back at 3 times the price. Or a bottle of rum, maybe $40, $50, it comes back at $150, and they get their cash that way. The basic card there, it would be good if it stayed, but they all have their way around it. When the shop was about to close in the afternoon or a Saturday around lunchtime, I would see a woman, only the woman, jittering around, not ready to come to the cash register until everybody's gotten through, and then she'll come over and I said, can I help you? She said, I want to wait till they've gone because they know I've got money. They'll wait till I get it. If they see the money that I'm handing over, they'll wait till I get outside and they'll rob me. And this is, and they're all very close knit there, and she did say to me that her grandson has done it a few times. Wait till she gets outside and he'll knock her down and take the purse out of her money. First off, the staff in the shops are threatened quite often. We actually, when we stay in the communities, most of the houses are engaged, are wrapped in a cage, if you like. There is, you get to the door of the house or the door outside, you've got to open the wire netting cage to get inside, then you open the door to your house. That's because you're not popular in town, but you're welcome because you've got something that they want, which is the food, and you know how to get the food to them. But other than that, you're not very popular there. Violence comes in another way, whereas I've had many people come to me, when I'm first in a store, I'll have many people come to me and say, they'll whisper, hey boss, can you give me a carton of Winfield Blue? I'll pay you next week. I say, no, sorry. Well, the last boss used to. Well, he's 400 kilometres down the road now. You go and see him. And then there is words spoken to me, which I can't repeat here, about what they want to do. I've had in another town, I was in the office, I heard bashing yelling, screaming in the actual shop, and I opened the door from the... I always have a baseball bat behind the door, actually, and I opened the door to the shop from the office, and there was a woman standing there with a lump of 4B2, and she was screaming at me, and a very tiny woman, actually, maybe 40, 50 years old, screaming at me, and I said... I nearly said her name, I won't say it, but I said, "What are you doing? What's wrong?" She said, "You, people don't belong here." Okay, well look, I'm just going to go back inside now. You leave. And I had the baseball bat, and she had the lump of timber. I said, "If you don't go now outside, I'm going to get out. I'll hit you on the leg and get you out." She said, "You wouldn't." I said, "Well, you try me, because I'll do it. It's better that you leave." And I got the baseball bat and I just prodded her a little bit in the back, pushing her out towards the hallway, out towards the end of the shop exit. And she dropped the timber, and out of her belt she pulled a Crocodile Dundee knife, and she said, "What about this?" Now, that was getting serious, so I just kept pushing and pushing and got her out of the shop. I closed the shop, because that's what we do. If there's violence like that, you close the shop. The police... I called the police. I had to tell them, because, as I see it, my life's been threatened. They came down and they said to me, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, you tell me what's the best thing to do." They said, "Nothing will happen. She's a victim of domestic violence, and she's been belted around a lot, and she's been on ice the last few days. So we can charge if you want." I said, "No, forget it." I have to say, that woman came in the next day and apologised to me. And and I went back to that shop a year later, and when the first day I walked in, guess who was there standing there? And I looked at her, and she looked at me and looked away embarrassed. And I said to her, "Hello," and said her name. I said, "Is there going to be any problem while I'm here this time?" She said, No, Terry." And there wasn't. She was wonderful. There's the alcohol, the domestic violence, and the drugs that did all that. and I can tell you that's rampant. I had with the knife pulled on me, I had a spear thrown at me in one particular town. There was violence happening, and they ran out of spears, and one of them threw a star picket, which hit the glass door of the shop and smashed it. So the shop was closed for a few days until we can get that fixed. And the other one was we were firebombed one night, a small little brick veneer house we were staying in, and I heard the thump outside the wall about 2 o'clock in the morning. I went outside, and here's a Coke bottle there burning, but because it was a brick, it wasn't a problem. Another town I had spent a lot of time at, one particular, and this is how blasé I've become about it. I was told that there was 2 sections of town going to meet in the centre of town at 10 o'clock in the morning, because there's going to be a big fight over what, who knows. I don't care what it was. And it amazed me how they arranged a time for it. I found myself so used to it that I went outside when it started, had a cup of coffee. I was leaning up against the wall of the shop, probably 20 metres from where 100 people were fighting in the middle of the street. There was a policeman had his hand on his taser. A woman was belting him, and he said, "Keep away, I'll get you with this." And there was 100 people. And after a lot of belting each other, they calmed down. They said, "Look, give it a rest. We're going for lunch. We'll come back." And they came back at 2 o'clock and started it again. Work that out. As true as I stand here. So I stood out there and watched it again. So, yeah, there's violence. There is a lot of violence in the town, but not a lot of it is directed at us. I had a fellow once who, the ATM broke down. Now, the store doesn't own the ATM. The bank owns the ATM. And I'm not a mechanic. I'm okay with it. I can do a little bit how to fix it, but, I know what a hammer and a screwdriver are, but I don't know how to use them. And I tried to fix it, couldn't do it. So the people couldn't get their money. Now, there's another shop in town with an ATM, but I was abused and going to be bashed because the ATM wasn't working. So I closed the shop. That is the only way to do it, and the people realise that if they do the wrong thing by you, they know they need you, but they want to have a go at you, be the boss and be the agitator all the time to have a go at you. It doesn't bother me. Hey, I've lasted 17 years doing it. It doesn't bother me. At times I think, oh, I'll go away, and I was a little bit younger, I might, but no, I keep out of it. I actually do enjoy the work, as the years say. Yes, there's violence, but I do believe a lot of it is brought on because of alcohol, drugs, and there might be things happening at home that somebody comes and wants to take it out on somebody else as well. Theft is a major problem. I can tell you that those little kids, I would say to 5 or 6 years old, they are angels. They are beautiful little kids. They're still under the mother's wings, if you like. But I get them occasionally, have a throw a ball out the shop to them, muck around, chase them, have a game of cricket, whatever you want, sing, dance, anything. Looks stupid, but I get a bit of fun there. So the kids get to like you. But when they go to school at about 6 years of age, they mirror their parents' attitude. They go from here to here in their attitude, and they then start stealing, spitting, abuse you. One particular store, there was one day, there was 10 or 11 of them ran into the shop. These boys were about, let's say, between 9 and 11 years old. It wasn't a school day. Now, they ran into the shop, just raced in, and because they live in the town, they know where everything is. They raced in and they had shorts on and coats, and they filled their shorts and coats within about 30 seconds, and they're all running out of the shop, giving me the finger on the way out. So my attitude is, I hate what they do, but the community owns the shop. If that's what you want to do to your own shop, taking the profits away from it, I don't care. However, the people who employ me want me to ring the police, which I did. They came along that afternoon. I had an Asian lady working there for me who was pretty good with the CCTV cameras, knew how to get in there, get the date, the time, come back. We knew the date and the time, of course, and she found it. And here's the whole 10 of them running out of the shop with their pockets full, giving me the. So, but in the back office with me, where the TV remote was, where the TV camera was, there was 2 elders from the town who heard about it, and they thought, well, we want to know who these boys are. One was an elderly gentleman who's been in the news quite a lot. Another one was the gentleman, the 38-year-old, who wanted work and started at 5 and left at 11, never saw him again. And there was 4 boys behind him who I knew were 4 of the boys who stole from us. And when the 2 men saw who the boys were, they both turned around and gave these boys just a little clip over the back of the ears, and said, and the police were there, and so I said, the police said, what do you want to do? I said, what do you think? They said, well, it won't go anywhere. And the elderly gentleman said, you leave it with us, we'll give them, I won't say the name of the town, but our own justice. There is a semi-government organisation within the town, within most of those communities, if they're big enough. Some are very small, but the majority of them have a semi-government organisation that has a bit of money, obviously from the government, and to spend where they believe is necessary. They came down to the shop the next morning with a purchase order, which is written out from the Serbian government organisation to the shop. Please provide whoever it is with goods to the value of, and this happened to be $250. So there was a couple of adults with these kids, a couple of the adults who were obviously their parents. So they bought around $200 worth of chips, lollies, soft drinks, ice creams, and they hopped on the government's bus and they drove around town, being given a talking to by the officers, not police officers, but the officers in this particular building. And on the way past, we were getting the finger and laughing and all the rubbish thrown out on the ground in front of us. So guess what the kids did the next day? Stealing. The next day, in the bus. They loved it, till somebody said, hey, this has got to stop. That was their punishment. There's never any punishment. And I can say that this is a generational, educational thing. You will never stop it, because the kids are beautiful to this age, this height. Then they mirror the parents, and then their kids come along later, and they mirror, and it just, people can say, I don't care who it is, they say, we'll go out there and we will talk to these kids and we'll fix it. It doesn't happen. It just never happens. The next morning, or during the day, the next day, we had we had a store vehicle, a four-wheel drive ute. We had the windows smashed. That was our punishment, and we know who it was. We saw the kids doing it on the TV again. They smashed the windows. That was their justice for us or our punishment for reporting them to the police. When we lock up the shop each night, as I say, totally different area, there was we always make sure, obviously, the shop's locked, everything's locked up. The cupboard with the cigarettes inside is locked up. We leave the cash drawers out, so if anybody breaks in, they don't break into the cash registers to see if there's any money in there. Came to work one morning, and there was cigarette butts under the computer on the desk in the office. Now, I don't smoke. My wife never smoked. And she was a stickler for sweeping out the office every afternoon. Oh, how did that? I don't know. And the cash registers were in rather than out. Very weird. Next day, we let it go. The next morning, exactly the same thing. I called the police and they waited a while. I was sort of getting a bit agitated because I couldn't open the shop. And there was a lot of older women outside the shop. Everybody knew what happened or what was happening, waiting on the police. And one of the ladies said to me, well, what did they steal? And we knew that there were cigarettes because the cigarette cupboard was open. So it was how many cigarettes, we never knew, but a lot of cigarettes in cartons. And some shoes, brand new Nike or whatever they were, shoes. So the lady said, okay, leave it to us. And they walked away. I didn't realise at the time the coppers did this because they knew the women were there and they were very good at black tracking. And a funny situation was women, small women in 70s or 80s, they went looking. And I was watching them walk across the dirt field, and they kept walking and walking. And within half an hour, these two elderly women came back with two probably 17, 18-year-old boys by the ear, dragging them across and said, here they are, and here's their new shoes, you can have them back too. And I said to the sergeant, why did you do that? He said, because we knew that that's what would happen. And the funny thing, while they were at the computer, when we got back into the office to start work again, my wife got onto the computer and did this, did that. Oh, print whatever she had to print. No paper in the printer. So I got some, put it in, and all of a sudden, you know what happens? It starts printing immediately. Well, all this pornography came out, dozens and dozens of pages. So those little tykes were sitting at the office desk watching pornography and printing it out so they could take it home. But they ran out of paper and they were caught. They were sleeping in the back storeroom, hiding in the back storeroom of the shop during the day when they could get in there. When we locked the shop up, they must have been hidden very well for 2 nights in a row. They stayed in there and had a good time. Gambling is a big thing. And once again, we're looking at a situation where, kids in many places don't get to school on time because mum and dad are up all night drinking and gambling. Now, don't let anybody tell you because there's alcohol isn't allowed in the communities that it's not there. I can tell you it's swamps of it and marijuana. It's everywhere. So they're up all night and I don't say everybody, of course, but there's a lot of drinking, a lot of alcohol, drugs, and gambling. I had one shop that I worked in. I had to press the button. I get to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I would have to press the button, and it was like a police alarm going off at 8 o'clock in the morning, so the kids could get out of bed and go to school, because mum and dad was still in bed. They wouldn't get out. Not every day we had to do that. I've had, just recently, I've had two 10, 12-year-old girls come in the shop with $50 notes and say, could I please change it for gold coins? I said, no. You know what they wanted that for? You know, it's just, once again, generational education thing. They're mirroring the parents' attitudes, their parents' doing, whatever they do. There's lots of fighting in the street. It's, you know, as I said, I've become blasé about it, and it shouldn't happen, but it's there, and you and I aren't going to be able to do anything about it. I witnessed a funeral in one town. There was a funeral on a Saturday morning. We were asked to close the shop for Saturday morning in respect, which was fine. When it was over, out the front of the shops in any of the communities is generally the meeting place. There is plenty of tables and chairs, and people gather there. Well, the gathering on this occasion was after the funeral, which was 10 o'clock in the morning. 11 o'clock there was probably 100 people, men, women, in groups outside the shop fighting each other, and somebody pulled a knife and stabbed somebody, another member of whoever it was, and killed the person. And I can tell you that I didn't open the shop for the rest of that day. I didn't let the staff out. You stay in here, not going out there. And on the occasion of that particular town, the doctor came out in the news soon afterwards and said, it's a Wild West, the place should be bulldozed. That's a white doctor. Humbugging, it's a word. I don't know who created the word, but all it is pretty simple. In that, like I said before about the cigarettes, they'll come to you and say, "Can you give me a pack of smokes? I'll pay you next week." The shops got everything they want, but there's always, and look, I don't blame them for doing it. They haven't got any money. I don't blame them for that. They want what they want, and they'll try and get it in any way they can. And if they don't come and steal it, most of them will come to you and they'll come to you and beg, please, can I have a free whatever. A lot of them will say, give me a sandwich, I'll pay you next week. I weaken occasionally, but the problem is when you do weaken, and it doesn't matter if it's a sandwich or a can of Coke or whatever, but the times that I've done it, be it $5 for a sandwich or I've never got my money back. And I knew I wouldn't, I didn't expect it. But so that's why nobody ever does it with cigarettes or boats, If it's a $200 gross, if $200 at the register, I would say 100 of that is Coke, chips, soft drinks, lollies. I've had instances where, many instances where people come to the register and to put it in a nutshell, they don't know how much money they've got. They know, with due respect, a lot of them can't count, and until they get there and start paying you out, 20, 40. But looking in the or on the card, but looking in the wallet, they don't know what's there. So they just go and get what they want, put on the cash register, and start pushing it through. And then a lot of times you'll see them watching. Oh, how much is that? How much is that? And then it gets to. You might say, I remember a few weeks back, one was $260, thank you. Oh, no, I haven't got that much. So every time, without fail, the veggies will go back, the meat will go back, the bread will go back, the butter will go back. Now it's under $200 and they've got probably $100 worth of junk. And with due respect here, that's the way they're brought up. That's how they live. There's an Aboriginal minister who said our mortality rate is 10 years younger than the Caucasian population. Well, I can tell you why. Just come and look at what the people consume on their groceries. Always meat, fruit, bread is put back, and when they might have $10 left over, it doesn't go back into the wallet. It's, oh, give me 2 packets of that one and 3 of that one. How much is that? Oh, I can get another one. I'll give you another packet. Lollies, I'm talking. The biggest selling item in any store is 1.25 litre Coca-Cola, without fail. Many shops I get 4 pallets of Coke in every week. Now there's 48 cartons to a pallet, and 4 of those is 192 cartons with 12 bottles in that. Work that out every week. That is the staple diet. And when they're running out of money, there's these beautiful things called purchase orders. I'm out of money, please. I can't go around I run out of money, I spend too much. I can't go around the corner and say, oh, look, I'm short, can I have $200 worth of groceries and you pay for it? I can't do that. The money comes from there, but the money, twice a year, the royalties come in from the Uluru, the mines, the roads to the mines. If you drive up the road to get into the mines in that area, that's paid. That you get the money. The communities get the money for that as well. It's endless. I can't tell you figures, but I know one particular family was getting $80,000 twice a year, because he was a self-appointed elder, one of the self-appointed elders of the town. But if you're lower down the scale of importance in the town, one particular lady got $8,000. Because she wasn't as important as the elders thought they were. And there's a lot of money there, but it's spent wrongly. And I can tell you there's many times when people miss out on the groceries because the 20-year-olds have been to town buying things they shouldn't be bringing back into the communities. Somebody in town runs out of money. There is that semi-government organisation who I said before, the money there, when somebody is short, they get a purchase order to go and buy what they need. So nobody goes hungry. One particular town, there was once again the elders, more, and one particular lady who I won't name, she got $8,000. She got it, and the royalties came in on the Monday morning. They were probably 400 k's from a fairly big city. To get to those cities, they're all very ingenious. They're bush mechanics. They're extremely good in that way and self-sufficient in that. But a few of them get in a car. Hey, I've got $10 for fuel. I've got $10 and let's go. And they go to town. They buy a lot of groceries. But on this occasion and on many occasions, it was straight to the casino. This lady wasn't there for a few days, and on the Wednesday morning, she came into the shop, and I knew the town people pretty well, and I knew how much she got because she told me before she left. She came back into town on the Wednesday about lunchtime, got in from town into the community, and she got a giant grocery trolley and started walking around the shop, filling it with everything she could, everything she wanted, and she knew how much she had. Now, when she got to the registers, she had 2 trolleys, or 2 or 3, I'm not sure. And $1,600, thank you. And she went, okay, she's handed her card over. And it rejected. The checkout operator said, who was an Aboriginal lady actually, she's an extremely good worker, one of the good ones. And she said, you haven't got enough money. And the lady laughed. She said, I do have. And anyway, the end of the story is she had to put everything, majority of, let's say 9/10 of it back. The story was, when she went to town, she went to the casino, as I said. Of the $8,000, when she came back, she had $800 left in her account. So she went to pay her grocery bill at $1,600, she had $800 left. I was sitting in the office there and I got a phone call from Centrelink, and it said, "I'm so-and-so from Centrelink," and he said the lady's name is outside, is in your shop outside your office. And I looked up and there she was, and there was a pick-up phone. We didn't have to dial, and you pick the phone up, put it in there, and it rings through to Centrelink. And she said, the gentleman on the phone said to me, "She's in your shop and she's hungry." I said, "Yes," and I told him the story that I just told you now, and he said, "Doesn't matter." He said, "I want you to put $250 off the government credit card." He gave me the number, and she got $250 of groceries and went. Now, once again, can you and I do that? Doesn't happen all the time, but it's there, it's available for the ones who are smart enough to have a go. The kids are very smart. If they're in the shop and they want an ice cream and Mum says no, they'll stand, they'll scream, they'll yell, they'll throw something around, they'll sit on the floor and not move. And Mum, in her wisdom, decides, I'll buy her an ice cream that'll shut them up. And it happens regularly, and I'm not talking about just ice creams. It might be I witnessed a situation recently of a $400 push bike in the shop. Kids push bike, big wheels, and it was on the floor, and the kid got on it, and obviously the mother must have had enough to do it, but she wasn't going to buy it. And the 7 or 8 year old girl was just going nuts, screaming in the shop, and she said, "Oh, come on then," and the kid drove out on a lovely $400 bike. And really, it's not just, it's anything. Lollies, chips, soft drinks, bikes, hat, anything they want. And the parents will, if they don't have enough money, they'll buy the kid that to stop the noise. And to me, once again, the kids aren't learning anything. And you can't blame the kids because that's been their way all the time. Once again, generational education. I know I repeat myself, but that's where something has to be done. There's got to be a break there somehow, because it will never, mark my words, it will never stop. I was in one particular town that was bad, supposedly bad for domestic violence. A particular minister, very high up in the government, flew in on a small plane, came into the town. There was a Indigenous mayor in the town who's no longer with us, and the minister and the mayor walked around town to a few houses. He was there for an hour in the town. I was there. He was there for an hour in the town. He was on the plane the next day out, and on a major Australian newspaper the next morning there was a photo of him, one or two little 7 or 8 year old girls, and the mayor on the other side, all holding hands, walking up the street saying, "What problems? What DV problems here? There's nothing." In 1 hour, he fixed that. In the same town, it was on the water, a particular minister flew in, but the problem for her was security. There was a couple of nurses' quarters that she could have stayed in, but they spent $5,000 for a night on a boat out on the water, so she felt safe. 5,000. 2 nights she spent there. So not just the air to get there. 2 nights for $10,000. Nothing achieved. There are certain ministers who come to these communities. They say, "We're going there, we're going to have a look," and look, we all see the photos of the sleeves rolled up, the coat off, the tie off, and looking very important, but they don't do anything. They're not taken to the ground where it's all happening. Come with me. I'll take them for a trip around. I'll take them for a walk around town. I'll show them where it all is. And one minister was used to go up every year and make a big thing of being there, get the coat and tie off and sleep in a beautiful air-conditioned tent where the chefs are up there before him to make sure the food was right. Nothing happens. An hour in the town. an hour for our Prime Minister to be in Alice Springs recently to fix the alcohol problem. 1 hour. No. Nobody has any interest. Dogs are never fed. Dogs are wild. They're never fed. When they're pups, you see the kids, excuse me, they see the kids reach down and grab the dog, like the pup, by the leg and just rip it up and throw it. I've had dogs. I had a dog with me for the majority of those places that I went to, and I looked after him so well, and he looked after me. A man I gave a job to in another town, he came along, he said, yeah, sure, I'll give you a job. But the shop opens at, I can't remember now, let's say 9 o'clock the shop opens. I want you in at 7:30, and the things I need done every morning before we open is clean up the shop, make sure that everything's on the shelf is tidy and neat, make sure the Coke's full, make sure the pie warmer's on with the pies in, and sweep out, and then go outside to your outside where there's tables and chairs where all your local people sit out there and eat. It's a congregational area in most of the places. They sit out there and eat, and there's a table, like iron, steel table and chairs, so they don't get taken away, and a roof over them. And I said, when you've done that, we open at 9, so about 10 to 9, I'll give you a free pie and a Coke. You go and sit outside there, have a break. You've done an hour and a half work, have a break, and you have the pie and the Coke. Oh, thanks, boss. And anyway, I had a look, and so I followed him outside, and I have a sit outside, stand outside, have a look around, and whenever I can, I do. And I watched this man who was talking away. I'd love to say his name, but I won't. And he said, he finished up and said, I better go inside now, get other things to do. So he stood up, and the Coke can went on the ground, and the pie wrapper went on the ground. I said, what are you doing? White man made that rubbish, not me. I said, is that right? He said, yep. So he left it there because they didn't have to clean it up the next morning too. That's the mental attitude. That's the why do they think that way? It's you give it. They don't want us there. There was a death in town of a fairly well-respected Aboriginal man, and when there was any, I don't like to talk about their funerals, but when there was any funeral, they're very good, great gathering. They all get together and they look after each other. And on this particular occasion, it was a very well-respected man, and there was an actual area about the size of a football field. It was all dirt, about the size of a football field, and where they gathered for a week to talk to each other. That's what happens. They gather for a week to talk to each other before the funeral. When the funeral's over, some stay, but the majority go. So there was 400 or 500 people living. It was a cold night, cold time. We sold plenty of mink blankets, mattresses, you name it. So much food, and all went round, and they lived in this, let's call it the football field, dirt, red dirt, for 7 or 8 days. Now, when that was, when it was over and they all left, what then happened was they left. Everything stayed there. I'm talking the beds, the blankets, all the food scraps, all the cans, everything from 10 days worth. Can you imagine, from 300 or 400 people? And I was in that shop a year later, and probably half of it was still there. And that's the attitude. White men made the rubbish, and not me. I shouldn't clean it up. Small town. Lady came in. There's only the two of us working there. Needed help. Once again, I like to get help with all the heavy stuff. I could drive the forklift, I could unload the truck, I could fill, but I needed help. And this lady came in one day. She said to me, do you think my husband can get a job here? I said, sure. You get him to come here, and I'll give him a job. I'll talk to him and see if we can give him a job. And I said, where is he? She said, he's outside. I said, well, why don't you get him to come in? She said, he's shy. Well, bring him in. So she did, and I smiled, and bring him in. She did, and nice man, well dressed, mid-40s, I suppose, mid to late 40s. And he said, so my wife said to him, look, we said, we'll start you. And she said to him, can you go home and get your tax file number? And he said, pardon? She said, you know, your tax file number. When you work, you have a tax file number. He said, I've never had a job. He was 42, I remember that now. 42 years old, he'd never had a job. So we got on the phone, she got on the phone and did what was necessary and got him his tax file number to get him started. Now, he's a 42-year-old man. He survived that long and not a job. Probably he was a great worker. I had the forklift license. I would get the goods off the truck early in the morning, bring them in, and he would distribute them in the shop, in this warehouse where they had to go, and then he would work so hard. He was one of the best workers I've had. And I left that shop, you know, as I say, I'm only there for relief work, 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks, whatever it happens to be, and I left. And he was such a good worker that the guy that took over from me as managing, I rang him a month later, I'm not sure, and I said, how's he going? I call him T. How's T going? He said, oh, he's gone. I said, what happened? He said he had to leave because, I missed a part there. When he was working for me, he said to me, can I get Friday, Saturday, Sunday off? I want to go to, I think it was Adelaide or somewhere, to buy a car. He'd worked for me for 6 weeks, so he saved as much as he could. He wanted to go get a new car. It might have been a $3,000 little Toyota, I don't know, I can't remember now, but he went and he got that, and that was his pride and joy. And every weekend he would wash it. And after I left, as I said, I rang and I said to the guy who was taking over from me, how is he? He said, he's left. I said, what is wrong? He said, well, the locals used to come on, the local guys in town were so jealous of him, they come and smashed his car windows, they kick his doors, put all dents in the doors and the boot and the bonnet to wreck his car because they were jealous of him. So he resigned and left town. We hear so much about they need better education, they need better health, they need better education, and our mortality rate is so bad. We die 10 years younger than the white folk. But you know, all those things I've told you, that's why this happens. There's houses. Once they go into the houses and once they finally get in, they're never looked after. People say the living conditions are so bad. It's so bad because they make it that way. White men made the rubbish. They won't clean it up. I've had situations where some of the walls have been pulled down for firewood inside the house when it's cold. The mortality rate. You know, there's a minister saying that's the 4 things: housing, mortality, jobs, education. I mean, and health. You know, why is the health and mortality? Why are they dying so many younger? Because it's what's going in here. A gentleman in the news recently said that the Indigenous should get the superannuation, if they have any, 10 years prior to what the white folk get it, because we die younger. Well, hello. Housing. There was, I ran into a gentleman, a builder, who was based in the main town, and he said, I was filling his fuel there one day, and he said, you know, obviously questioned, what do you do, etc. He said, he's a builder. And he told me that he'd recently, three years prior, he just finished building, he's a big company, just building 40 houses in the area. And after 3 years, he'd been back to the whole 40 of them to do repairs. 40 houses. The people are living the way they want to live. Sure, we see things in the paper about the rubbish and the mortality. They live the way they want it. They're with their families. And families are a massive thing with them all. They're there with them. That's where they want to be. The kids don't want to leave the parents, or the teenagers, 18 to 20, they want to get out and do their thing. But there's sometimes 2 or 3 generations living in the one house, and they say, well, it's not healthy. Well, it's not healthy, but they're happy in that because they are living with their family. While we're here, I'd just like to take the opportunity to promote my book, published last year. It's called God Bless the Outback. I got the name because, I love the name because I've been out there, as I say, 25 times. I saw a little sign heading from towards Normanton, from Normanton to Corumba, and a sign with bullet holes in it said "God Bless the Outback." And to me, I grabbed that name for the book. It's about my experiences in my misspent youth, my early years in rock bands in Brisbane, before I got into the actual the jobs that I explained before. But this is a small book, but it's very much it's up to date. It's a lot of and a lot more of what I've spoken about here. Some good, some bad, some of the jobs I've had you wouldn't believe, but it's entertaining and it's all the truth. And if you need a copy, my email is probably the best. It's KeaneTerry@hotmail.com. KeaneTerry@hotmail.com. Email me and I'll get some to you. I've got plenty sitting here. Thank you.